I think it's at the end of the day, who else? Look, we're still competing for fifth, sixth, seventh place.
Yeah.
Spurs aren't like miles ahead of anybody. You know, I mean, we could still theoretically catch them. Hi everyone, welcome back to another Watch More Football. This is the one where we're kind of looking ahead. Last or earlier on this week, you should have, if you want to see our previous episode, that's the one that was looking at the game weeks that just went by. But we're looking at the games that are coming up this weekend at the moment. My name is Cam. Ryan is here with me as always, and we've got producer Kyle. You're watching us on Genreverse Sports. We are part of the Genreverse YouTube family, so why don't you check out our main channel as well? Lots of anime content on there, reviews, reactions. I'm sure if you like that kind of stuff, you'll find some things that you enjoy. For written content, why not try lrmonline.com? I am one of the writers over there. We cover movie, games, TV news, rumours, reactions, reviews, that sort of stuff. So if you like your geek content, that's a good place to find that. In terms of our kind of Premier League coverage then, Ryan, I think our kind of focus is going to be a little bit on clubs, managers that are struggling a little bit. But I'm going to start with Newcastle a little bit because, and then we'll go on from there because I know we got into it too much in our previous episode. And I would say some people might say Newcastle are struggling at the moment. And I think in terms of league position, we are, because we're in 16th place at the moment. I don't think that means we're going to be terrible and we're going to be fighting relegation and all that, because you do have to look at the situation, you have to look at the fixtures. We've had 3 home games so far. 2 of them have been against Arsenal and Liverpool, and we've lost them both, and played reasonably well in both of them as well. Then you've got our games at the start of the season where we had no striker. We played quite well but couldn't score a goal. So there are reasons, but ultimately the table doesn't lie at the moment, and it's going to be more difficult for us to kind of navigate ourselves up that as we go forward. I don't think there's any major panic at the moment, but I am worried about the injury to Gino Livramento, who in the defeat to Arsenal, he got a bad injury at his knee. Livramento, who was bought from Southampton, had already suffered quite a serious ACL injury, the dreaded ACL injury. It was the same knee as he hurt and he went down. He was in tears, and the worry is it's another ACL injury. And not only could that put him out for the rest of the year, very few players come back from a second ACL injury. Like, he's done so well to come back from the first one. He's one of the best young right backs and left backs in the country. He's earned his place, I think, in the senior England squad, and probably would have, I'm sure, would have went to the World Cup if it wasn't for this. So fingers crossed it's not another ACL, and it's something that is more recoverable from, because I think trying to come back from a second one is really, really difficult, and it could actually ruin the guy's career. But it's a big loss for us this season.
And just to say on that, the challenge from was it Gabriel? Was it Saliba?
Gabriel? Yeah.
Gabriel. The challenge from him that caused it. I don't know. Football seems to treat it as a sort of innocuous challenge and a bit of an unlucky injury from Livramento, but it's a really dangerous thing to do where Livramento is jumping up to win the ball and Gabriel just sort of eases into him, and that disrupts his balance, and then he can't land right, and it was his ankle this time. Another day it could be his head, and it's other sports where that sort of interaction is possible. They clamp down quite hard on any sort of contact with another player while they're in the air. And football doesn't seem to really do it. Harry Kane used to do that. He used to back into a defender as they were trying to win a header.
And I think he does it for Bayern Munich.
And he does it with quite, a bit more intentionality than I think Gabriel did over the weekend. But it is something that I think needs to be looked at from a player welfare perspective. And you're going to get some grumbles
on social media since the weekend, yeah, but I think it's a difficult one to police as well.
There's always some grumbles when you go in with like a zero tolerance approach to that sort of thing, because there will always be accidents that end up getting punished. But I do think it's sort of worth it for the player from a player welfare perspective, because I think, you know, in a way, Livramento is lucky that it's just his ankle or his knee rather than something else in that situation.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're looking at it that way, but it's his knee, unfortunately, which is, I think it was his ankle, and it was a different injury. It wouldn't be as bad, but I do think it will cause us a problem though for the rest of the season. Like, you know, that's somebody who is one of your elite players, you know, and fine, we talked about Newcastle have got a lot more cover this year, but even if it's not an ACL, which, you know, I hope and wish that it's not, it's still an injury that's going to see him out for quite some time. And we don't really have the cover. And that's the problem when you're looking at it. We've got Kieran Trippier's cover, which was perfect. But if he's the only right back and he can't play all the games that we've got to play this year, he's too old for that. So there's some games where we're going to have to be playing Kraft at right back, or we're going to have to try Chow at right back. He can play right back a little. And, you know,
Matt Targett's still at the club, isn't he?
Ideal in terms of... No, he's away in Middlesbrough.
Oh, is he? No. It's a shame. You got a recall on
him. No. Well, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, Tino was also our cover for left back, or you've got Dan Burn as cover at left back, and then we're starting to look at where we were a couple of years ago rather than where we kind of were at the end of last season, if you like. I was kind of hoping this year we were going to see most games Tino Livramento down the right and Lewis Hall down the left. We've been kind of just bringing Hall on gently because he had a bad injury last year. Now it looks like Tino's going to have one. So I think that it reduces my expectations for us this season, I think, now. Newcastle, myself. But,
yeah, I mean, it is interesting because Newcastle are quite low down the table, but no one really talks about them as being a struggling club this season. I don't think. I know, like you said, there's mitigating factors as to why they're down there, but
maybe one game.
Yeah. But you'd think from how you finished last season, from the money that you've been able to spend this summer, you would think that there'd maybe be a bit more noise in the media about what's happening at Newcastle, if that makes sense. And fine, if you know you're watching it every week, you'll take a level-headed take in the same way that I will ignore a lot of crisis talk at Man United when, you know, every week there's a new crisis. But it's just interesting that there's not that same level of noise. I don't know.
I think it's at the end of the day, who else? We're still competing for 5th, 6th, 7th place.
Yeah.
Spurs aren't like miles ahead of anybody. You know, I mean, we could still theoretically catch them. Villa have started poorly. Who else is there? I mean, just because Sunderland and Crystal Palace are up there just now, do we think they're going to be there at the end of the season?
Yeah.
Do they have the squads big enough to actually cope with that? I don't think so. So it's a long season ahead. I think it's too early for us to... And, you know, if fate had gone another way, we beat Liverpool and we maybe, you know, beat Arsenal, you know, we potentially had a strike in the first games. We could have beat Aston Villa at the start of the season away from home because we were so much better than them. So yeah, it is circumstance, but ultimately it's points on the board and we don't have them at the moment. So we need to, but we will play easier teams than we have so far as well.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
In terms of clubs, other clubs that then are struggling and managers under pressure, I guess we could start with Amarim, because obviously your team, because he is under the most pressure. We talked about him a lot in terms of the result in our previous episode, but you know, since you did say in that episode, for you it's just a formality and it's a case of when rather than if, and I agree with you.
I think he's definitely next in line beyond some wild shit like we've already seen this season. Because I mean, we've already lost Nuno, lost Graham Potter, in terms of managerial sackings this season, and Nuno's already found himself a new job at West Ham.
Yeah,
I do think,
which you can kind of understand, because the Nuno sacking was the crazy one. I kind of understand why West Ham sacked Graham Potter, to be honest.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. You know? In terms of, I think the only manager who looked more out of his depth and more abject than Amorim and less able to turn it around was Graham Potter, because he just didn't look like he had any ideas. They didn't look inspiring at all. But yeah, I think it's quite clear that barring something ridiculous happening, Amorim is next in line for the sack, and it will happen at some point. I'd like to hope that the club are brave in it, because I think, for all, I don't think it's going to get much better under Amorim. I do think if we get somebody who can just sort of motivate the players, motivate the players a bit more, there is something to be salvaged, because there are flashes that we can play well this season. It's just getting that out in them for 90 minutes. So I think it might be, although it's quite early in the season, it might be an interim manager job just to try and get some good atmosphere back into the club. Something along the lines of, I mean, if
who
not,
would you want as
I mean, I genuinely would love to go back to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and have that feeling that we had in his interim period.
With Roy Keane as his assistant?
No, Roy Keane won't do it. Yeah.
No, that would be drama. He would go in there and kick everyone's ass.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, just Roy Keane is just categorically not a good football manager. He's proven that enough times. That's why he's on Sky. Yeah, I just want to enjoy watching United again. I don't want to worry about whether we're going to win the league or whatever like that. I just want to enjoy Man United again and look forward to the games. Like I said, I've been checked out since Grimsby. I didn't cheer when we scored the 2 goals against Chelsea to go 2-0 up. To be honest, I just sort of went. Again, when Sesko got his goal against Brentford on Saturday, it's just I shrugged. It just all of the enthusiasm has sort of left me for it. So I'd quite like, and I think the club needs to go back to that sort of optimistic. We're just going to see what happens on the day, see what the result is, but we're going to enjoy watching the game either way. I think we need to go back to that.
So let's just say you got an interim till the end of the season. Who would you want next summer?
Next summer, genuinely, I think the prime candidate has got to be Antonio Conte, because he didn't have a good time of it at Spurs, but I mean he's proven that he can. He's proven time and again at multiple clubs that he can do wonders with ex-Man United players and find a job for them to do that makes them effective. You know, he won the league with Scott McTominay, and he turned Scott McTominay into the best player in Serie A last season. He even got him a Ballon d'Or nomination. But when he was at Inter, he won that league with Ashley Young as a wing back and Romelu Lukaku up front, who, you know, Ashley Young looked like he was a couple of years finished at United, and then he goes to Italy and wins the league. He can play 3 at the back.
I don't think that would be the popular opinion amongst
I think
Man United fans.
You know, he can play 3 at the back, which is obviously what we've told the squad towards at the minute, but he can also, at Napoli, he did change it up a bit last season as well. And I just think he's got the potential to sort of get a rocket up the players. He's a manager that players want to play for as well. We're miles off winning the league, but I do think he can drag us quite a bit further. Maybe, you know, it would be a short time, a good time rather than a long time sort of appointment, I think.
Well, yeah, that's that. You know that going in with Antonio Conte, anyone, but it's a couple of years at most, and then he'll throw them.
But I mean, apart from that, it's we go, you know, we go for another project manager and we hang the keys to another young manager like an Oliver Glasner, like an Andoni Iraola, and Glasner, I think, has got a bit more about him in terms of managing the expectation at United, because he's managed big clubs in Germany before. He came from Eintracht Frankfurt over there. He's just got that bit more gravitas about him.
But, but that's not like, unless it's Bayern Munich,
Yeah,
it doesn't compare. That's
No.
not a big club
But-
compared.
but
Eintracht
he
Frankfurt
just-
are not a big club compared to Manchester United.
Yeah,
sorry.
he's got that gravitas. He's got that presence about him, which I think Amorim has lacked. As much as he's talked a good game, he
Proven
hasn't had
Premier
that
League
presence.
manager, won the FA
Yeah.
Cup, team sitting second in
Iraola-
the league at the moment after getting half his players sold.
Exactly, exactly. And
Good manager.
and like we said, he's improved players. He's found jobs for players, and that is what we need at United. Is we need to be looking at players and going, this is what I need you to get better at, and this is how I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And
I
rather
thought
than just
he'd be the
saying,
most obvious choice
yeah,
for you. But,
it's and
I'd
he's out
rather
of,
you didn't get him.
he's out of
Don't get me
contract
wrong.
at Palace in the summer, so that's where I think an interim plays into it, because Conte would be out of contract, Glasner's out of contract, Iraola's out of contract, Tuchel's out of contract, Nagelsmann's out of contract. Quite a few big names, especially post World Cup, that are going to be without a club. So
They could be tempted, yeah.
if we can salvage some good feeling from this season and then give the keys to a proper manager, then that might. Iraola, I think, he's another name that's going to be linked. I like the way that his Bournemouth team plays, and obviously he's dealt with losing his best players, and he's improved players and found jobs for players well. I don't think he's got that. He's not got that sort of intangible quality about him that makes me think he's going to be United manager. He's just not got that presence.
Media presence is high profile enough to do.
He's too much of a nice guy. He's too much of a nice guy. I think it would be very similar to
his team.
Exactly.
I don't think he'd be entertaining in press conferences and
As much
it's
not even that. It's not even about being entertaining.
Matter. It does.
It's not even about being entertaining. It's about not only not letting the outside noise get to you, and there is no club in the world with more outside noise than Man United, I don't think. But it's about using that as a weapon. And Amorim very quickly crumbled under that outside noise, and that's why he's not been effective, I think, as much as anything. I don't see that Iraola's got it in him to do that, whereas somebody like a Conte, like a Glasner, I just get the feeling that they would be able to not only ignore it, but really feed it into the players and really sort of use that as a tool to motivate. Because at the moment, the managers are crumbling under that pressure, and as a result, the players are crumbling under it as well.
So what other managers do you think are kind of under pressure at the moment? Obviously, if we'd been recording this a week ago, we would have been talking, about the situation with Graham Potter. He was the manager that was under the most pressure. That one's now been triggered. Nuno's went in there. He's got a good result. I think, in terms of expectations, he'll be fine the rest of the season. So who is potentially next on the chopping block in your opinion?
Well, ordinarily,
other than Amorim.
Yeah, so ordinarily you'd say Vitor Pereira at Wolves, because they are on 1 point. They managed to get a point against Spurs at the weekend, but on that they've lost all their games and look quite poor in doing so. They've done the usual Wolves thing of they've sold all their best players and not shelled out for replacements. So you'd think that he would be, he'd be close to it, but he signed a new contract a few weeks ago. So
he was a guy that was brought in to save them last year.
Yeah, but we know how that goes.
But who else are they going to get?
Yeah, exactly.
To save them this time. If they do that, I could see them just going down. I don't know. But,
we talked about
them. They played quite well at the weekend, Wolves.
Yeah.
So I think he does get that team playing as well as anybody would get that team playing.
Yeah.
So they'd be crazy.
And I think,
but you're probably right, because
if they went down, and there's still a lot of football to play, if they went down, you would still fancy them to come back up if they invested properly to do it. And Pereira's more than good enough a manager to do that for them. So, and obviously, he signed a new contract, so crazy things can happen, but it doesn't look like a likely one. I guess Emery, I don't know that he's necessarily under pressure, but there's noises about it. Obviously, their sporting director, who's a big Emery ally, Monchi, left a couple of weeks ago as well. They haven't started the season well at all. They just look like they've hit the ceiling for that project a little bit, and maybe they need to sort of just regroup a bit
Not
get
sure
some fresh ideas in and go again.
Or it's more about wait a year because of the PSR situation and then rebuild the team again next summer under Emery because he's a good coach and try go again for a few years.
You would still expect them to be competitive for reaching the top 8, wouldn't you? And they don't look it at the minute.
I think they will, though. I think they looked a lot better at the weekend. I know opposition you're playing and all that sort of stuff, but I think, as the season progresses, they'll get a little bit better. I think he's too good a coach to just let them fall straight down. I think they'll still be like Newcastle with a bad start. I think Newcastle, Villa will still be in and around your Spurs and your Brightons and all that by the end of the season because they won't all play well every week. Either. They've all got these apart from your City, your probably Liverpool and Arsenal. Everybody else has got a squad that they'll turn up one week and just stink the place out and get beat a game that you weren't expecting here and there, and the confidence will drop. Those are the only 3 that really you're thinking will tend to win most of their games. Anybody else under pressure for you?
I don't know about under pressure yet, just because it's such early days, but one that I think has a possibility to not see out the season, even though he probably should, is Ange Postecoglou already at Forest. Because it's a volatile situation. It was really bizarre the way that he was appointed, and I think he's appointed mainly just because Marinakis likes him, rather than any footballing reasons. He's not started well at Forest, and I can see if they're still sort of hovering around mid-table next season. If they're hovering around mid-table come the end of the season, I don't think he'll see that through. If they go out of Europe early again, I don't think he'll see that through because Marinakis wants them to be pushing on and kicking on every time.
I think if Aine is keeping them in the Europa, I think they'll be all right because I think Marinakis sees that he won it last year and that he might win the Europa League with him this year, and that's his way into the Champions League, which makes sense. But I think the league form could be a problem, and I don't expect. But I mean, the next game's away to us at St James's Park. We're desperate for a win. We're going to go all out in that game. I'm not guaranteed we'll win it, but I'd be more confident winning it against Ange Postecoglou's Nottingham Forest than I would be Nuno Forest.
I mean, with the Europa League stuff, I know Postecoglou sort of was a bit more pragmatic in the knockout stages of the Europa League compared to how he was playing in the Premier League, and that's what saw him through. But I really don't know how much of that Europa League win was because of Ange or just because the English teams far outweigh the English teams far outweigh the resources. It was a poor even the other foreign teams they were poor. Whenever they played against you didn't play that well and still managed to beat them. Both yourselves and Spurs. I think you had one or two teams having two teams having historically bad seasons, and then Spurs came out just about on top of the worst final since the last time United were in the Europa League final. Yeah. It's sort of like you win it by default. Forest, by virtue of being a Premier League team, have got that in them. They're up against Emery and Villa, and Emery has got a good record in that competition as well. If they were hiring Unai Emery to win you the Europa League, I'd say absolutely crack on. Yeah,
you can see it. You can get it. Yeah, I don't see it. I agree with you. I don't think it was the right choice for Forest, and I don't think he'll be there long term. But I think it'll be either get kicked out of Europe or being in the relegation spots before he gets sacked this season, as long as he doesn't fall out with the owner, because that seems to be more important than the football results.
Yeah. What about you? Are you worried about anyone?
I mean, I said Ange Postecoglou, that was the one I was thinking as well. I still think Scotty Parker will struggle to keep his job till the end of the season. Not necessarily his fault, but he's not like a high-profile manager. And if Leeds and if Burnley do start to fall away a bit further, I could see them just, try and, but then they didn't do it with Vincent Kompany. They kept him for the full season and let him get relegated. But will they do that with Scott Parker? Well, I don't know. I think
with
them trying a Hail Mary come February.
I think with it, obviously the first time around with Kompany, they looked at it as they've pocketed the Premier League money for a season. They only spent a season out of Premier League and they're back in it again. But you look at Norwich 10 years ago, tried that strategy, and then after the second or third time, the drop-off was massive. And I don't think Burnley have got much more ambitious owners than that.
In the right players.
Yeah. But again, it's about who do Burnley get in, because the big firefighter managers just have retired now. Hodgson's not going to come back. Allardyce isn't going to come back. Sean Dyche, obviously, Sean Dyche is a big figure at Burnley, but he got turfed out by these new owners because he wasn't playing sexy enough football for them, and he was taking them down anyway. And we've seen it at Sheffield United. They've gone back to Chris Wilder a couple of times, and it hasn't gone well for them. So
it doesn't usually.
No. So it's a tricky one.
Who Burnley get,
do they try and grab someone? I can't
see them staying up.
Do they try and grab someone from the Championship? Do they get a trendy European manager?
Parker.
Yeah.
I think they'd be as well just to keep Parker. But if they're not going to, and then next time they get back up, properly invest in trying to stay up this time, like Sunderland and maybe Leeds have done a lot. I mean, the thing, getting some experienced players in and stuff like that.
The thing with Burnley, and we said this last season, is obviously they got promoted off the back of a absolutely ridiculous defensive record, and they're trying to rely on that again this season. And obviously, it's a lot harder in the Premier League. They just haven't got enough goals, but also they just don't make games difficult enough for other teams in the way that Sunderland have been doing, Leeds have been doing to a slightly lesser extent. Yeah. Brentford, they're a weaker side now.
Good Premier League teams, if you part the bus, will just go, right, we'll just control and we'll get one eventually. You have to be hurting the other way as well. There has to be something.
You have to go at them. You've got to, not necessarily try and control possession like Kompany was trying, like Russell Martin was trying. But you have to put teams under pressure. You have to win the ball aggressively and counter on them quickly. And you just don't see that from Burnley at the minute.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that is as much as I would say at the moment. I don't think there's... Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody random gets sacked that we haven't even mentioned today for some strange reason. I mean, weeks down the line because it's Premier League football, but
one to keep an eye on... One to keep an eye on, I guess, just in terms of combustible personalities, because if Amram isn't the next manager sacked, it's because somebody else has had a falling out somewhere. Marco Silva at Fulham is in the last year of his contract. Fulham, they've had an uninspiring start to the season. They're about where they should be, but you would expect them to kick on because they had a decent season last season. I think Silva was grumbling in the summer that he can get any signings. If they just sort of start to slip a bit, I wonder if something could happen there.
Yeah, it's possible. It's possible, I guess. But I still think he'll be there till next year. But then I could see him potentially looking to move on at that point.
I think he can get a bigger job than Fulham. I think he's done a good job
available.
There. I think he can definitely...
Maybe he needs to sit without work for a year waiting for one to come up, kind of thing, and that's risky as well. You know? So, I mean, Alan Kirbishley did that and, disappeared and never come back again. And you can look at the I mean, Graham Potter kind of did that and kind of nearly almost disappeared, and then the West Ham job come up.
And that was the wrong job for him to take.
That'll be the last one. You won't get another Premier League. Graham Potter will not work in the Premier League again for me. No. He's not a firefighting manager. He would just work at a job in the Premier League. So, that's the thing. But anyway, we'll leave it there for now. Predictions for next week.
Yes.
I did notice that I had kind of went first, and I think everybody just took that as a template and said, right, which ones of Cam's do I not agree with? And those are the ones I'll change, because everybody's got 2 or 3 that match mine.
I see what you mean.
But I mean, that's kind of what we do.
From my perspective, I'll stick my hands up.
My stuff was up there first. I'm just going to say that.
So
I mean, not you.
Yeah, I know.
But I I intentionally post the fixtures blank without my predictions for that reason, and then when I go to add mine later, I go off the blank one for that reason, because otherwise I will just change the odd number. Mick,
but it is actually easier to copy somebody else's, because then you just need to change the numbers. You know,
Yeah,
do you know what I
yeah.
mean? It's just easier.
But you do get swayed. But yeah, there are. I'm looking at the wrong page. Bloody hell. Yeah, I mean there are a few similar ones. Everyone thinks that Bournemouth will beat Fulham 2-1, apart from Rich and Kyle. That's an interesting one. I mean, Carl's put 1-1. That could absolutely happen. It's just one of those games that either of them could win that anyway, or none of them.
You're right.
I guess in terms of actual fixtures, you know, Man United versus Sunderland is not a big fixture, but it is going to be an interesting one, because anything less than a convincing win, and when I say convincing win, I don't mean go out and beat them 5-0, but we need to look like the better team over the course of the match and actually put them away.
Yeah, not snatch a win because of some referee indecision or something. I think it's results though. You know, like if you draw or you get beat, I think he's under more pressure. If you win, I think sustained.
Well, no, because I think
no matter what the performance is,
if we nick a win against Sunderland, playing the way that we have been playing, what have we learned? What's changed? It needs something that he can show the board. But he needs something he can show the board. I'm not saying like he plays brilliant. We put in the best performance we put in all season, and we end up coming away 1-1. That's obviously not an issue. But he needs to be saying, "Look, here is my plan. Here is my vision. The players have actually gone out and done that. We just need to find a way of repeating that." That's what's going to keep him in a job, not nicking a 1-0 against Sunderland by hook or by crook. You know,
I think that's your point of view, but I think your owners will more react to the actual results and the pressure the media puts them under than they will sensible stuff like that. That's your right, but you know. Yeah.
I mean, I guess other big games. Chelsea versus Liverpool is going to be a good one.
Liverpool,
yeah. I mean, I've gone for. Everyone else has been a bit coy. I've gone for 3-0 Liverpool, because I just don't think Chelsea have it in them to exploit Liverpool's weaknesses.
For a Liverpool win, though. I mean, obviously Dave's went for a Liverpool win because he always
so there's
the opposite of what he wants to happen.
Mick and Rich have gone for draws, but everyone else went for a Liverpool win.
Yeah,
but quite tight ones. Yeah. Whereas I just think, fine, Liverpool can be got at defensively, but the way their attack works and how shambolic Chelsea's defence is at the minute, it's just I can only see it being one-way traffic, to be honest.
You know.
Yeah.
Look at them tonight. They're getting beat 1-0 away from Galatasaray. They didn't get beat by Crystal Palace at the weekend. Liverpool. Chelsea are winning, you know.
And then
it'll be an interesting game anyway. I mean, I'm saying that, and I've went for a Liverpool win as well, because you know, I kind of agree with you, but I'm just playing the advocate here. But I'm just saying, I wouldn't be massively surprised if it went the other way in Liverpool.
Yeah, and then I think
a result.
I think Newcastle Forest is an interesting one as well, because it is two teams who are lower down than they want to be, and it's, can either side show that they're actually better than their position suggests at the minute, and just get a win to just sort of pull them up, because the table is still constricted enough that one win can send you 2 or 3 places up. So that's an interesting
there's
one.
Only 6 points between us and fourth place or something like that. It's nothing.
We've all gone for a Newcastle win in that one. Obviously, Forest have got the Europa League on the Thursday, whereas you're playing tomorrow night. Wednesday night, aren't you? Newcastle.
Yeah, tomorrow night.
So that will factor into it as well, I think. But
this is it will factor in. Both will be potentially time. We've got a trip to Belgium. You know, I don't know where they are, if they're away or they're at home, but I'll check.
Yeah.
Thursday, Forest. They're at home.
Okay.
But you know, it's still that kind of Thursday Sunday situation.
Yeah, and it's a squad that's not used to that dynamic, which is I think the bigger thing. You know, less than who they're playing. They're playing against Midtjylland. I mean, Midtjylland can pull off a result, but equally, if Forest are on it, they should win that. It is about the recovery and getting ready, because it's a trip up to St James's Park after a Thursday game. That's
well, I think we might rest some players away to Union St Gilles and then keep the heavy squad, if you like, for the game against Forest. If I'm reading Howe's press conferences, right?
Yeah,
so,
and I think
that's why I've went for us. I think we'll be up for it more than them.
Yeah, I think that's a smart call, because I mean, you should still have enough to beat Union Saint-Gilloise, but you need to start getting some wins together in the Premier League, don't you? Before the crisis talk
I think
does
it's more
start
important
actually
than the
happening.
Champions League kind of at the moment. The focus kind of has to be Premier League for the moment, and a draw away to Union St Gilles wouldn't be that bad either. And they're a decent team, but we'd like to think we can at least defend against them and cause them a few problems. We're still resting a few players, but we'll see what happens. Could get beat 3-0 and it looks like an absolute shocking decision, so see what happens. I guess that wraps us up for this week, so we will be back next week to discuss the next set of these ones that we've just discussed anyway. Give us a like, subscribe, or let us know what you like or don't like about the channel. If you want any comments, that'd be great as well. And remember, check out our main Genreverse YouTube channel, and we've got lrmonline.com on there as well. Thanks very much for watching. See you next time. All right,
see you guys. Bye.